I just watched a $2,000 flagship turn into a paperweight because of a single line of code. And the worst part? It's exactly what the manufacturer intended. I mean, look at this. I'm holding a device that by all physical metrics is a masterpiece of industrial design. It's got the titanium rails, the 3-nanometer silicon. But underneath that brushed metal lies a cynical bit of engineering. A kill switch that turns a premium tool into a timed brick. Today, we're peeling back the layers of how Silicon Valley transitioned from selling us gadgets to selling us temporary licenses to use our own hardware. This is the paperweight paradox. Think about the sheer brilliance of the engineering team for a second. They spent thousands of hours perfecting the tactile click of these buttons, only for the software team to render them useless with a remote update. It's a bit of a joke, really. But you know, no one is laughing. When you buy a high-end tool, you expect longevity, right? But in the modern tech ecosystem, your ownership is an illusion. I've noticed this trend accelerating lately. It's not just about the battery getting tired or the screen losing its luster. It's about the deliberate introduction of friction. Frustrated? One day your apps are snappy, and the next, a forced security patch makes the interface feel like it's wading through treacle. You haven't changed how you use it, but the manufacturer has changed how the device responds to you. This is software-defined obsolescence, a strategy that turns your $2,000 investment into a ticking time bomb. Look, the hardware could easily last a decade, but the business model? It demands that it dies in 3. It's bloody massive, the gap between what we think we're buying and what we actually take home. I remember when buying a flagship meant you were at the top of the food chain for years. Now, you're just a subscriber to a hardware service that you paid for up front. The hardware is a masterpiece, quite literally some of the most advanced consumer tech ever conceived. But it's being held hostage by a line of code that says your time is up. We're going to look at how we got here, and more importantly, why we keep falling for the trap. I look at these devices today and, well, I see a masterpiece of engineering. Titanium shells, sapphire lenses, and 3-nanometer silicon that should, in theory, outlast your car. See, this was the brilliant lie of the Pro era. You were told that spending $2,000 was an investment in longevity. That by buying the pinnacle of mobile computing, you were quite literally opting out of the 2-year upgrade cycle. But the reality? It's far more cynical. Manufacturers have simply shifted the goalposts, you see. They realized that if they could not break the hardware, they would have to break the permission to use it. Welcome to the era of software-defined obsolescence. Look, whilst your phone looks pristine on the outside, its internal organs have been turned against each other. In the past, if your screen cracked or your battery faded, you would just pop it open or take it to a local shop, right? Not anymore. Today, every major component, from the display to the humble vibrator motor, is cryptographically paired to the logic board. It is a digital marriage that only the manufacturer can officiate. Think of it like this. Imagine you buy a high-end front door. It is solid steel, fireproof, and built to last a century. But the lock on that door isn't mechanical. It's connected to a server 5,000 miles away. One day, the company decides that lock is no longer secure enough, or perhaps it's just too expensive to maintain the server. They flip a switch, and suddenly, your unbreakable door will not open. The steel is still perfect, but the function is gone. That, mate, is exactly what is happening under the hood of your flagship. Look, this is not just about repairs, it's about control. By moving the device lifespan from the physical realm to the digital one, companies have ensured that the expiration date of your $2,000 investment is dictated by a line of code, not by the wear and tear of your daily life. It is a brilliant, daunting strategy that turns owners into temporary users. But here's the crazy part. There is one detail in this system that is even more calculated. It's the way they hide these digital locks behind the guise of your own security. And as I dug deeper into the firmware, I found something that suggests this trap was planned years before the first Pro model even hit the shelves. Look, I want you to take a serious look at the actual engineering behind what the industry calls part pairing. It's a phrase that sounds harmless, right? Organized even. But the reality is a cryptographic nightmare. Imagine for a moment that you just bought a Ferrari, a masterpiece of engineering, truly. But then you realize the engine is digitally tethered to the chassis. If a $10 sensor fails and you swap it with a genuine identical part from another Ferrari, the car simply refuses to start. It becomes a brick. And that is exactly what is happening inside your pocket right now. Look, this isn't some noble pursuit of safety or a rigorous attempt at quality control. No, it's a systemic, calculated transfer of wealth. By assigning a unique serial number to every single component, from the OLED display to the vibration motor and the battery, brands have effectively created a digital kill switch for independent repair. See, when you swap a part, the processor performs a digital handshake. If the software doesn't recognize the specific ID of that new component, the hardware is essentially totaled. It doesn't matter if the part is authentic. It doesn't matter if it came off the same assembly line. The software simply says no. It's a bloody massive waste of resources that turns e-waste into a deliberate feature of the corporate business model. Now, whilst we're told this is for our own security, to prevent theft or ensure data integrity, the numbers, they tell a different story. It's about a monopoly on the afterlife of a product. You don't own the hardware. You are merely a tenant, and the landlord has just changed the locks without giving you a key. And as I looked closer at the silicon architecture, I realized this lock is much harder to pick than we ever imagined. Because the real trap isn't just in the hardware. It's in how they've conditioned us to accept this as the new normal. But here's the thing. There was one detail everyone missed. To understand how we actually got here, we have to look at the one component that started this entire cascade of control.
That component was the non-replaceable power cell. Look, it was the first domino to fall. A piece of hardware quite literally designed to fail, whilst the rest of the machine is still perfectly functional. It leads us to a simple, albeit painful, realization. Is the status of a $2,000 flagship actually worth it? Probably not. I think we've reached a point where we need to stop being early adopters and start being resilient owners. You see, the evolution of consumer tech has brought us to a crossroads. Ownership is being replaced by a high-priced subscription to hardware we aren't even allowed to open. It's a brilliant bit of corporate strategy, but it's a daunting reality for you and me. I'm choosing to vote with my wallet. I'm prioritizing modularity and repairability over the thinnest possible bezel or a slightly faster processor. Warning, whilst the marketing remains seductive, we have to remember one thing. If we don't demand a change, our expensive investments will remain nothing more than ticking time bombs. I hope you'll join me in looking for tech that actually respects the person who paid for it. Hit the bell if you're ready to take back control.